are here for Jonathan Hatami, wonderful District Attorney. You're going to get to meet him, understand what he stands for, his principles, his values, get to know him, and get the opportunity to ask any and all questions you may have. So, Jonathan, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for inviting everyone and for all the lovely food and for all the lovely guests.
Thank you for coming. Would you like to tell us a little about yourself, your background as an attorney, as a father, as a husband, as a veteran, so the guests could get to know you from just your background, and then we can move into policy and politics and your experience.
Sure. So I'm a 17-and-a-half-year veteran of the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office. Before that, I spent 3 years as a civil litigator. And then before that, I spent 1 year in the Court of Appeals. And then before that, I spent 7 years in the United States Army, both in the infantry and in the military police corps. I joined the Army right out of high school. I was enlisted, and I was honorably discharged as a staff sergeant, E6. And then after the Army, I started going to college. And I used the GI Bill and Pell Grants and financial aid, scholarships. I got my 2-year degree at junior college. I ended up getting my 4-year degree at Cal State Northridge. And then I started applying to law schools. And at least back when I applied, law schools were pretty expensive. And I think they're even more expensive now. And so I started applying to a lot of law schools outside of California. And I got a scholarship to Nebraska. So I was born in New York City, grew up out here in Los Angeles, and I went to law school in Nebraska. And it was a great experience. It was cold, but it was a good experience. Graduated top of my class, ended up being the graduation speaker, and then I started, becoming a lawyer and kind of moving through the process. Part of my life story is my mom. She was born in Brooklyn. She's Italian and Puerto Rican. My dad, he immigrated here from Iran, and my mom and my dad met in New York. My dad was very, very physically abusive, and so I had a really, really tough childhood. And it was a difficult time. And so my mom and my dad had a really bad separation, and the court ordered temporary custody of my brother and I to my mom. And a day later, she kidnapped both of us, and we went to Florida, and then we lived there for about a year, and then we came here to California. And so I grew up in Silmar, North Hollywood, and Northridge until about the 8th grade. And then we moved to Santa Clarita. And that's where I live now, in Santa Clarita. And from the 8th grade, close to the 9th grade, there was a ladies' home journal edition that had a group of about 300 missing kids. And in that ladies' home journal edition was a picture of my brother and I. And my mom was a nurse at Kaiser in Woodland Hills, and somebody there noticed the two of us. And they called the hotline, and the police got involved. And now when you kidnap kids, we have an Amber Alert, and it's a big deal. We have a child abduction unit within the DA's office. Parents can't kidnap kids. But back when I was a kid, it was illegal, but not as serious as it is now. And so my mom got a slap on the wrist, but we had a really difficult childhood. I never was really close to my dad. I never really had a dad. We never really were able to, I think, get over a lot of that. And so I got in a little bit of trouble when I was 16. And from that, I decided to join the Army. And it totally changed my life. It really kind of turned my life around. And I realized when I was in the military that I wanted to do something to help kids. I just really wasn't sure what that was. And so after the military, I started going to school, like I said. And after law school, I did civil litigation for a while. Because I wasn't raised with a lot of money, and being a civil litigator pays pretty good. And so I did that for a while, but I didn't like it. And I started thinking, is this really what God wants me to do? And I looked on the internet and I noticed the dean's office was hiring. And I was like, oh, I could do that, really fight for kids. And I applied and I got the job. And I've been doing that for 17 and a half years. I've handled thousands of child physical and sexual abuse cases. I did a trial with Saeed Tamore, who's sitting over there. He's a deputy DA in my office. A little boy named Anthony Avalos, a 10-year-old who was tortured and murdered. We just did that trial about 3 months ago, 4 months ago. And so, I do a lot of different trials. Most people know me from the Gabriel Fernandez case. And Olivia, who's sitting over there, she's Gabriel's cousin. And so I've known Olivia about a decade now. And so, you stay close to a lot of family members in my cases. And, it's a very rewarding job. I love fighting for kids. I've been doing it for a long time. I have 2 kids of my own. I have a 10-year-old boy named Jonathan and an 8-year-old girl named Lindsay. I'm married. My wife is a 16-year veteran of the Sheriff's Department. She's a detective in the Sheriff's Department. She's at home right now watching the kids. And I'm blessed to have family, kids, be a dad, which is really my #1 job is being a dad. And then, you can talk to Saeed after this, you can talk to other people. I think we were going through our job, I think blessed with the fact that we got to fight for kids or do other things within the office and really fight for public safety. And that all came crashing down when George Gascon became DA. And not only did it affect the community, which it did, but it affected everybody in my office. And so it really caused a major problem within the DA's office and did a lot. And as a result of that, George Gascon became the DA on December 7th, 2020. And on December 15th, about a week after that, I was the first one to come forward publicly and challenge George Gascon's directives. And it was based on the case of a little 4-year-old girl named Eternity, who was tortured and murdered by her mom. And he wanted to change all those allegations and enhancements. And I was just not willing to do that. And so I hope people really understand that. I know we hear, that there's all these misdemeanors that he has in charge, and we have a huge uptick in crime. But when he first took office, he said, if you broke a child's arm or fractured a baby's rib, we couldn't charge the great bodily injury allegation. If you intentionally tortured and murdered a child, we couldn't charge the intentional murder by torture allegation. If you took a gun and you killed numerous people, we couldn't charge the gun allegation. These were very serious blanket policies that he instituted on the first day he took office. And I think a lot of people don't know about that because they didn't hear those things right away. People have heard about all the misdemeanors we don't charge and things like that. But there were serious crimes where he said we weren't going to do certain things. And it really impacted a lot of people in my office. And I think it impacted a lot of people in the community. Because there was a lot of victims, family members, who got notified that first week. The DAs had to call them and say, hey, we're dismissing your allegations and enhancements on your family's case. Your child who was murdered, we're getting rid of this and that. Those are serious, serious things that happen. So I hope that you're able to spread the word to a lot of people within Los Angeles that, at the end of the day, this issue isn't about politics. It's about doing the right thing and making sure our community's safe. The other side wants to make it about politics. And they want to do that because they want to divide people. So they start talking about politics to get ready to fight each other. We need to come back and say it's not about politics. It's just about doing the right thing. It's about making sure that we have a safe community. It's about making sure if people do bad things that they are prosecuted and that they can't go out and do something bad to somebody else. It's about saying that if you do something wrong, you have to be accountable. And there has to be some punishment for that as well. But if we can help people, we're going to do that too, obviously. But it doesn't mean we stop doing our job, which is making sure that the community is safe. And so I hope a lot of you talk about that, and talk about it in a very empathetic way, so people who don't know, who haven't been victimized, understand what's happening.